like to pride myself in knowing technology. So much for that today. All right, well, so let's get rolling on this. We got a lot to cover, and so capture the sale, create compelling web and print copy that moves your prospects to action. Ultimately, that's what we want to do. And so if I've heard it once, I have heard it 1,000 times. Writing is the one thing that every marketer secretly loves to hate, and sometimes not so secretly. Now, let's face it, and I'll be looking down at some notes from time to time. It just takes too much time to do. It requires too much energy. It causes too much emotional frustration. And most of all, sometimes it doesn't even work. So I want to make a couple of, just a quick observation, and nobody cares. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, some of us are married, some of us have significant others, some of us have kids, relatives, they care about you. If you were asked them the question, and normally I'm doing this in front of an audience, they would say, yeah, these people care. But the fact of the matter is, what most people care about outside your close relationships, they care about themselves. They really don't care about you. And so they care about what your product or service is going to do for them. They care about how you're going to make their lives better, happier, more fulfilled, what your product or service, what their business can perhaps operate more cost effectively. The one thing that I want you to remember when you assess your own web and print copy is, and you've heard this before, does it address WIFM? And what's WIFM? What's in it for me being your prospect or your customer. So here's a little nugget for you, and we'll be discussing it later on. It's what the so what, who cares test. I ask you to take a look at your marketing collateral, your web copy, and put yourself in your prospect's shoes. Would your prospect be saying, so what, who cares, after reading your content? And if they say, who cares about this? So what? I've just read this. If so, then you really need to take a look and rewrite what you have. So when they do read your copy, they don't say, so what? So this is something you can do on your own. It's something that people, in my business, we do it all the time. Whenever we write, we will say, well, so what? Is that going to make a difference? Does anyone feel any differently about that? And if we can't answer that question, then, we go back to a rewrite. So there's lots of formulas out there for writing good copies. I've counted like 12 to 15. We're just going to touch on two, and some of you may have heard of AIDA. And AIDA is sort of the 4 fundamentals of good copy. And that's what the first one is you want to capture the audience's attention. And we're going to talk about briefly how you can do that. Create an interest in the product or service. All right. You want to get your audience's interest. Turn that interest into a strong desire to own the product or service. You're going to try and build a desire for that offer. And then finally, you want to ask your reader to buy the product or service or take some other action, induce some other action, that will, make a difference that you can tell them to do. Here's another, before I even get to Bob Stone, let's talk about features and benefits. Because, I don't know how many times I will go on a website and all I see are features. And you'll even see that on TV, all right? Features are the attributes, the properties, the characteristics of your product or service. Benefits, on the other hand, are what you can do, what you can have, what you can be because of those features. Now, what do consumers buy? They don't buy features, they buy benefits, all right? And that's one of the most important lessons you can learn if you are writing your own copy, all right? Let's take a power drill, all right? Men or women, they don't buy a power drill because of the specs of that power drill. They buy the holes that the power drill will make. So when you're writing copy that sells, you need to keep your eyes firmly on the benefits. And you want to distinguish those benefits from the features. And the way you can do that, and I wrote a note here, is followed up with a sentence. What that means to you is, that's going to be the benefit. Begin by stating what the feature is, follow it up with that question. What that means to you is, or the phrase, which means that you can do this. So let's get into Bob's formula real quick. Let's see. He focuses on benefits. Promise a benefit in your headline or first paragraph and make it your most important benefit. Again, benefit comes up again. Immediately enlarge upon your most important benefit. Tell the reader specifically what he or she is going to get. If you make a claim, you make a statement, you have to back that up with proof and endorsements. And if you fail to do so, you are not going to instill the confidence that you want in that potential buyer. And then tell the reader what he might lose if he doesn't act. The fear of loss, and we'll talk briefly about emotional drivers, and I have something for you at the end of this, that can make a big, big difference on whether or not they're going to take some action that you want them to do. Rephrase those benefits in your closing offer. All right, let's move on to, I can't quite see that. You want to incite them to action, of course. Call to action, and I wish we could spend a lot more time on that. We'll perhaps do it at another time. Let's get into the most important part of your sales copy, and that's the headline. I've got a few quotes here for you. On average, 5 times as many people read the headlines as read the body copy. It follows that unless your headline sells your product or service, you've wasted 90% of your money. Another one, if you have a good headline, you have a good ad. If you have a poor headline, you are licked before you start. Finally, with a good headline, you stand a fighting chance of having anything from minimal to overwhelming success. But without a good headline, your chances of success are next to zero. It's been said that if you have a good headline, a compelling, persuasive, grabber type headline, and poor content underneath it, you probably have a greater chance of success than a poor headline with just great copy. And why would that be? Because you never got them into the copy. Because the headline, they left at the headline. And so that's why when, on my jobs, I'm probably spending 40% of my time in just coming up with the headline that is going to grab that customer, that prospect, into reading further. We'll get to the 3 Ps in a moment. One more thing on a headline. What do you think the purpose of a headline is? I wish we had some interactivity here. People will say, oh, well, just, it's to sell my service. It's to, get them, interested in my product or service. Actually, the purpose of a headline is to get you to the next paragraph. The next paragraph is designed to get you to the paragraph after that. Because if they don't get past the headline, there is no sale. They're not going to read. So that's when you look at a headline, ask yourself, does my headline get them into this wonderful, great content that I've created? All I need them to do is read it, and I know that they will, be interested in buying my service, buying the product, participating in my nonprofit, whatever that might be. That's what that headline needs to do. Okay. Now, let me get past this thing here. Let's talk about the 3 Ps. If there's one thing that I want you to remember from this presentation, it's the 3 Ps. And what are those three P's? Pain, predicament, problem. Most sales, whether it's online or offline, are going to be based on solving a problem. If you've identified your target audience, and that's a big deal. We're really not going to be able to spend any time there. Your job is now to identify the problem that your target audience has, and that could be solved by your service, your product, your solution. And so these are the three P's: pain, predicament, and problem. This is where you get to play doctor. You diagnose the problem. The people in your target audience, they may not even know they have a problem. So it's your job to let them recognize it. And unfortunately, too many times we try and shove a solution down, our viewers' throats before the readers even recognize there is a problem. And that's like the doctor prescribing medicine before you even feel sick. And so that's one thing that you want to, there's an old saying that goes something like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that leads me into this one, the golden rule of sales. All things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust, those that they have confidence in. That is just the way it is in this world. 4 functions of the headline. We've talked about it. Get attention. So you're trying to appeal to a reader's self-interest. You're picking out an important customer benefit. You're doing your best to present it in a clear, bold, and dramatic fashion. You need to select your audience. Let's say you are selling life insurance to people over 65 years old. What's the point of an ad that generates inquiries from a bunch of young people? A good headline for that life insurance ad might read, to men and women over 65 years or 65 years and over who need affordable life insurance coverage. To men and women over 65 years old who need affordable life insurance coverage. That headline is being directed right at your target audience. Promise. You got to deliver a complete promise. Where possible, you want to include a selling promise in that headline. Something like, caught soon enough, early tooth decay can actually be repaired by Sensodyne or Colgate. Something along those lines. Draw the reader into the body copy. This is a big one. And that's that purpose of the headline that we talked about, to get readers to the next sentence of the copy. If you don't get them there, you're dead. It's wasted. You've just thrown your money down the drain. Where most people go wrong with headlines. Excuse me. For those few people that have met me, since I'm relatively new to Domata, you've heard me say, I've met a lot of brilliant people out there. Brilliant people with wonderful companies that can't write themselves out of a paper bag. All right, they just can't. And so there's a lot of things that where people go wrong, with headlines. They try and write it themselves. All right, that's probably that's number one. But again, they write that headline and it doesn't pass that so what, who cares test that we already talked about. The headline is cute, clever, or obscure. We have a tendency that we love to play on words. We like to give some attempts at humor. You can do that. The studies have shown that, you might get a smile, you might get a chuckle out of it, but it rarely puts a prospect in the mood to read on and take action. So my advice, forget the cute, forget the clever. Yes. How many times have we seen this? The headline means everything to the business, but nothing to the prospect. All right. You've got to put yourself in the prospect's shoes and what's important to them. Once again, we talked about with them. You talk about that so what, who cares test. Too often that you see content, you see copy that, gee, it's really important to the business, but when you stop to really look at it, it's not really important to the very people that you're trying to get. So let's say you see a headline that highlights 25 years in business. All right. Unless your prospect has some burning desire to work with a company that's been in business for 25 years, I would suggest, why do you even have it in there when you could be talking about a benefit? And you'll see this in TV ads, you'll see it in other content. And those are things to be extremely proud of, no doubt. But once again, is that what a factual statement like that is what is going to move your prospect to take some action? I doubt it. A couple of things quickly. Words are usually the main money makers on a website. Better writing is probably the most important improvement you can make to your site. And the reason we're holding this session is not because I'm trying to get your business. Many of you are good writers. And if you write in a manner that we're talking about here, you can improve what we would call a conversion rate from prospect to sale, or converting from this position to, another position. So I thought I'd take a look back and find out. I had some information from 2015 as we sort of move into the website portion of it. As early as 2021, there were approximately 1,800,000 websites. Hard to believe. 200 million are considered active. And users often, we've heard, you've got them for 5 seconds, you have them for maybe 30 seconds. When I looked at the data, and sort of summarized it, users often leave web pages in 10 to 20 seconds, including click and load time. So given those facts, I want you to remember this: words tell, emotion sells. People buy on emotion. They justify their purchases with logic. And a strong web copy platform built on emotional drivers such as anger, exclusivity, fear of loss, greed, guilt, even salvation, those are very strong emotive things that grab an individual. So I came across this. This is where we get into the academic part for about 30 seconds. So I'm gonna read this because it explains it very well, that the emotion and logic. But I was debated on whether or not I would mention it, but I will. So our decision to buy is actually made subconsciously. All right. Our subconscious intuitive decision to buy is then communicated to this conscious mind that we have via an emotion. And our conscious mind then searches for rational reasons, and that's how we complete this circle. So we justify these emotional signals to buy with logical reasons, but it starts with the emotions. And actually, I've made a presentation just on emotional drivers, all right, that you want to touch on if you're trying to move your prospect, your customers to another position. More time than we have for today, but at least you're aware that you want to look at emotion before anything else in terms of being able to move your prospects. What is the most important element of a website? I can hear you all saying, well, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Actually, what it is, it's your first screen, the screen above the fold. It actually drives me crazy when I get newsletters. It doesn't matter from whom. And they send a newsletter and it's scroll, 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 scroll. People are lazy. They're not going to do it. That first screen is where your prime selling space is for your website. And how many websites have you looked at where, they've just taken up a third of the screen with the name of their business? Is that really the smartest thing that you can do? No. That is your selling space above the fold. I'd love those chamber newsletters to be shorter. So the first screen is often the first, last, and the only thing people will see on a website before they click away. One more. The big mistake most web writers make, and I've made this myself, treating your web visitors just like readers of printed text. Right? It's a common mistake. And what they do is when people are writing for the web, they're writing as if they are writing to an individual that's going to sit there and read the text. And that's completely wrong, because web copy is totally different than print copy. And if your print copy is the same as your web copy, I want you to listen to some of these tips I'm going to give you downstream here. But the fact of the matter is, and it is a sad, sad thing, but we get so much information that web copy is scanned. It's glanced at. It's not read. All right. You wish they did read. I wish everyone read, but they don't. Okay. Your web visitors are hunting for information, products, or services. They want to make quick decisions without thinking. And you need to write and put your website together along those ways. So we're going to talk about 9 tips for writing persuasive web content. Kristine, how many minutes do we have left? Probably about 5 to 10.
Since we got a bit of a late start, we probably have about 7 minutes.
7 minutes. All right, we're going to do 9 tips in 7 minutes. So here we go. Treat your web visitors like wild animals. Now, I wish I had come up with that one, because that says a lot. And this is actually from a guy by the name of Jacob Nielsen. He's well known for studies on user experience, user interface. And so your people that are visiting your website, they're hunting for that information. And it's like a hungry panther that sniffs out a scent. And gee, am I going to really follow this? Am I going to get an easy catch, easy meal out of this? Well, your website needs to do the same thing. And does your website offer what they're looking for? And can they find it easily? A panther doesn't want to waste time on trying to catch a meal. I do a lot of fishing. Fish don't go all over the river looking for food. They get in these little lanes and they wait for the food to come to them. All right. That's the way they find it quickly. And so just as that panther is going to make a quick decision on whether to follow that scent trail or not, your web visitor decides quickly whether your site is going to be useful or not. If your site looks complicated, it's overly wordy, you've got lots of options to choose from, they're going to click away and they're going to go to another website. So if they only glance at your web visitors only glance at your website, all right, how do you get your message across? Well, you put your most important information first. Information is what your web visitors are looking for, all right? And, it's, let's take an essay. When you write an essay, you explain what you're going to discuss, you present an overview, you discuss it some more, and then you draw a conclusion at the end of the essay. On web pages, you do the exact opposite. Your most important points always need to come first, not last, okay? So that's what your people, your web visitors are going to be looking for. Now, journalists, if we have any left in this country, they call that the inverted pyramid. okay, that, let's say you read an article, it's got some newsworthy information, it's got some detailed or background info, but if you read the first paragraph, at least when you walk away, you have a good idea of what that article was and you understand the big picture. And that is putting that most important information first rather than at the end. Don't try to be clever or creative. We've actually talked about that a little bit already. Clever phrasing requires people to think. Actually, asking people to think, just doesn't work on the web because they don't want to think. They don't have the time to think. Now, you've got to keep your web copy as simple as possible so they can get to what they are looking for. Writing for scanners. How many people read web pages? Well, you already know the answer. Hardly any. Okay. The research, I've got a stat here, research suggests that only 16% of the people read web pages word for word. Most people scan, just 16%. So how can you write for scanners? Well, you have a headline that's going to communicate what you're about. You've got an image caption that communicates a sales type message. And maybe you have some sub-headlines that summarize your key points. You want them to understand the important information just by glancing at your web page. Use familiar words. Yeah, we're all academics, but you know what? Leave the academics out of it. We just, for whatever reason, we get into using these very complex words. I do the same thing. And your readers are, hunter-gatherers. They don't want to have to figure out, what does that word mean? Okay. I mean, they just, they simply don't want to do that. We have probably just a few minutes left. So you want to write for lazy people. That's what you want to think about. You want to write for lazy people. And you need to expect people to arrive anywhere on your website. They don't necessarily arrive at chapter 1 and they can arrive anywhere. So where they arrive, you need to grab them when they arrive on that page. Make it easy for hunters to find you. Well, what I'm really talking about here, is SEO, and that's for someone else on one of these EDU sessions to spend time on. Okay, but that's how you lure customers to your website, by presenting useful information, and that's where SEO comes into play. All right, it is part of my own writing. All right, because there are certain keywords, all right, that customers are looking for. All right, so SEO, if you don't have an SEO person and you're looking at trying to improve your website, it is definitely worth outsourcing to someone within the chamber, who has that expertise. Make a visual impression. Excuse me. No, it just doesn't have to be words. We're visual type people. All right, so you can substitute visuals for words many times. You can replace text paragraphs or with some videos. You can use different font sizes. You can look at quotes. You do bulleted lists. You can use bold text, caps, italics, that type of thing. You don't want to overdo it, but those are the things that will keep someone's attention, all right, on your website page. So what do you do next? Lose the corporate speak. No one needs the corporate speak. Know your target audience, right? That's actually, quite frankly, the first thing you need to figure out. Who are you trying to target? And you work your content, all right, from there. Review your headline's attention power. We've talked about, so what, who cares? I'm going to give you some, as I said, words, some things for headlines that you might want to include within your headline. Anticipate the objections to any claim you make. Back up your claim with proof and benefits. You make a claim, you better have the proof and benefits to back it up, because someone reading it may not believe your claim. So you make sure that you have proof and benefits in that content. Tell your prospect or customer what to do next. Don't assume she knows what to do next. Call to actions is what I'm CTA. That is a session all itself. How many times have we, at the end of, this wonderful presentation has been made, there's great copy, and there is, the customers, oh, what do I do? You need to tell them what to do. Don't make the assumption they know what to do. They don't. It's your job to direct them what to do. So how do you reach me? Happy to I give a 30-minute consultation, no obligation, no hassle, that type of thing. You can reach me at this number. Yes, that's a Silicon Valley number, but I left Silicon Valley and the chaos of California behind when I moved to Nevada, and happy I did. You can check out my website. I have a blog on there, and I wish we had more time. I know we just had to gloss over a number of different things. There are a lot of things that could not even be touched on. Did we get into interest? Did we get into desire? No. Did we touch on CTA in a great deal? No. Were there lots of examples of just killer headlines? No. But I have some backup I have some docs for you, and those docs are, I've got them here. Clayton Makepeace, I swear to God, that is his real name. Well known in the industry. He's got a 37-point acid test for compelling sales copy. Greatest thing that quite frankly, I've ever read, and it's fun to do. And you email me, and I'm happy to send you that document so you can do your own assessment. The other one is 20 proven 20 proven formulas for writing headlines. Words that you can use, when you begin your headline, things that should be in your headline. That's a little one-pager that you can have. And then lastly, the left brain versus the right brain. What are some of those expressions? Left brain is the rational side. Okay, well, yeah, but we've talked about emotion. That right brain, the emotional words or phrases are the ones that you really want to become familiar with and put that within your content. So I've got a couple of minutes over. I apologize for the self-inflicted technical issues that was at the start. But we did get through this. Hopefully this, if you're going to look at your own marketing collateral, print copy, website copy, you have a few pointers, a few tips, that you can just do on your own and make that improvement. So thanks again to everybody who was on the call. Kristine, thank you. And that ought to do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill. I found myself writing questions down as the presentation went on, and you anticipated and answered all of them. So I'm left with very few questions, but mostly just two statements. I think two of the most transformational elements that you shared today. I think number one is making sure to have a benefit focus as opposed to a feature focus. I think especially in the pandemic, I think a lot of us have really been squarely focused on what it is we're doing. We are doing A, B, and C for you, for our customers, for our clients, for our members, and not remembering to say, this is the meaning, this is the impact of those things. And so I think that alone is hugely insightful. And I think, as a former journalist, I'm always in favor of folks doing what they can to simplify their writing and make it as conversational and accessible as possible to their audiences. And so I appreciated those points primarily, but I'm curious if there's anyone else on the call who has any comments or questions. Now is the time. We've got a couple minutes where we can address a few things. And of course, you can reach out to Bill directly if you have any specific questions that you'd like to dig into. Let's see, we've got a comment from Leslie. This is great. Thank you so much for your time, Bill. I echo that sentiment. Thank you very much, Leslie, for sharing that. So if there are no questions, then perhaps.
I put one little thing in here.
Okay.
I've noticed in having moved to Nevada, my observation is Nevada has a great many nonprofits, much more than I've seen in other places that I've lived. And although we didn't not talk about nonprofit writing versus writing for profits, there is a difference.
Mhm.
And, we can't go into detail now, but, with nonprofits, storytelling is very, very important to your overall message. And admittedly, I haven't looked at the literature and other things that our nonprofits are putting out there, but storytelling is very important because those people that are visiting or looking at a nonprofit, they want validation of a cause, a belief in a cause, and your storytelling behind what your nonprofit is about is very, very important in validating what these people believe, and as such will get them to participate. So storytelling has its place, but particularly when it comes to a nonprofit. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great subject to explore for perhaps a call down the road.
Yeah.
And I think that we have many, many nonprofit members who would absolutely love and benefit from that expertise. So, all
Right.
right. Well, thank you so much again, Bill. We appreciate you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you so much for pushing through the tech issues as well. I know those can be frustrating,
I said self-inflicted, self-inflicted.
well, it was worth the
What
wait.
can I say? But you recovered. You were the backstop. So that's a good thing.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you very much, and we'll see everyone at hopefully a face-to-face chamber event sometime soon.
Indeed, absolutely. Thank
All
you all
righty.
so much for joining us, and we will see you again very soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.